Aloha and welcome back to another episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast, the podcast where two dudes from halfway across the world talk everything green and gold. I'm Mike, and that's Iowa Joe. And today we're previewing the game against the Los Angeles Rams. Joe, it's going to sound like more of the same, I think. But anything
Well,
you're
I'm going to
looking at
stop you
initially
with
for
your
this one?
intro. I'm going to stop you with your intro because we are now officially 2 days out from Halloween. So, did you take the little ones out trick or treating?
We tried to. We made it to two houses before my son tapped out. He was a little sick, so um, and then my wife was sick, like irritated sick, because she spent a month making him a transforming bumblebee costume. So you can YouTube it. Like if you just YouTube like transforming bumblebee costume, it's the one that's like a full body costume for the kid and stuff like that.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty legit. But yeah, it was good enough that my son won his school's class Halloween costume contest. So
Really?
we at least have that to hang. We have that laurel to hang on. So and it was pretty funny because I was kind of teasing that his teacher, I don't think she's won the contest or her classes won it, because the way she captioned it on her daily bulletin is our class was represented by the winner or something like that. So I was like, I know Marisol joked that, oh, she's either just not come close or lost some controversial ones. So but yeah, had some fun and had the family matching. So another year, another fun costume, but waiting for the kids to really get into it.
Yeah, usually the first few years are more collecting candy for mom and dad than it is for the kids.
Oh yeah, it really helps when you know your kids. You don't want them to know what sugar is, and you don't want them to know too many of the good candies. So you tell them that they're for adults. So use all the tricks in the book that were used on you.
Well, obviously I don't have any kids, so and it was another work night for me, so I wasn't home for when
Any surprises that showed up at work or not? Not really.
no, no, I'm pretty far away from it. So, uh, now when I worked at one of the convenience stores back in the day, our manager would buy candies or get candies extras that if the kids came in with costumes on that we would
That's
give
pretty
out to
cool.
them. So that was pretty
That's
cool.
cool.
But no, I just had to do a check in because it's that time of year, or was that time of year. So, all right, you can go on with the rest of our uh, dim look on this next game.
Oh, well, we're going to go from dim to dimmer because the next update is Razul Douglas was traded on Tuesday. Um, it's one of those I kind of hate that I was right about it because, so on the fandom side of it, Razul was a fun player to watch. He definitely brought a lot of not just talk and like Shazam to the game, but he backed it up with production and was just a good corner. So, the one thing you do kind of say is you hope that he's on a contender now, so you hope that he has a chance to play in the playoffs again and make an impact for a playoff run. But yeah, it's a bummer to see him go from Green Bay, but the quote unquote business side of it is that the reality is Razul wasn't going to be on, or at very least be a key contributor to the next good to great Packers team. So why not go and get something good for him in a trade? And I know obviously the joke is right now like, oh my god, but it was for a third round pick. But you know what? Gutekunst is not Thompson in the case where he is more aggressive to move up in deals. So whether it's to move up, his first round pick, or to move up either of the two second round picks he's going to have, or even to package the what is Green Bay's and that Buffalo pick to move into the back end of the second round. A lot of options, opportunities to be had for the Packers. But yeah, Joe, what are your thoughts on that trade?
I think you touched on most of it. I was kind of doing my best to call out people on Twitter that were, all doom and gloom with it because I was saying pretty much the same thing. On the fandom side, yeah, I understand it. Um, y- we have very few bright spots as is for this team. So to trade somebody who's a vocal leader, and it kind of looks bad per se because the reports were that Razul was holding court with the rest of the players to try getting them, fired up and everything else, and then the next thing we know, he's traded. But the way it sounded from Gutekunst's uh, conference today, press conference today, that they weren't actively shopping him, but a lot of teams were calling about availability for any of the veteran players that the Packers had, and they had a threshold of saying, "All right, we'll do it for this price, and if somebody meets us at this price, we're going to do it." And Buffalo just happened to come along and offered the right price for it, and Razul, was traded. So business side of it, I completely understand. Uh, 29 years old, going on 30, one full year left on the contract. Might as well send him to a contender, get something out of it. I know you were talking about the third round pick, and everybody knows the curse of the third round picks for the Packers. And everybody knows my thoughts on third round picks for the Packers. That I believe that the next 100 third round picks need to be traded or packaged or whatever, and get something out of them. I am a bit surprised that they didn't bring anybody in. I really thought that they were gonna make a move to bring in maybe not like a big name like safety or something, but somebody to fill in spots until Darnell gets back because I hate to say it, he's another good story, and the Packers always seem to pick up good stories, but I just don't see Jonathan Owens being that guy until Savage comes back. I don't see Rudy Ford being that guy till Savage comes back. We're hoping that Anthony Johnson Jr. will be, start turning into something. But I just, I, I'm like everybody else. It really surprised me that Razul was moved. But again, looking at it without the green and gold tinted glasses, I can understand the move for it. So, wish him obviously the best of luck over in Buffalo, who are pretty well contenders, and maybe Rizul will be that one guy that'll put them over the top and get them to the promised land.
Yeah. And Buffalo fits the bill. I think they just put Tre'Davious White on IR, so they're kind of desperate for secondary help. So, Andrew Brandt says it all the time: deadlines for actions. And yeah, as much as I wrote, I listed Brazil as one of the guys that I could see getting traded. It still was a surprise that it actually happened. I know a lot of people are worried that, like, oh, well, will the rest of the team crater because this is the. I can't think of it. You looking that way. They didn't sell off every they didn't fire sale every veteran with a deal that was expiring in the next year or two kind of thing. It's not like they, it'd be a bigger thing if they traded Aaron Jones or something like that. So that would be something more in terms of like, oh, like they don't care. Not that they don't care about this year, but all the doom and gloom things that people are saying these
Well,
days. But
the more that comes on, I really do think that they don't per se care so much about this season. I think it was all this, no matter what the talk was, this season was always going to be to see what Jordan Love could do and whether or not he will be able to do what they had hoped. Now, so far, he's been kind of up and down. He showed us some, but he's really showed us some not. If that, to kind of ruin the grammar part of it, but um, just with every move that they've made and everything else, it really does sound like they weren't too expectant of this season, One, still because they're in cap hell. Two, it's a super young team and with a new starting quarterback. And you know, next year looks like a prime time to start buying on certain spots. I know, was it you or who else was there that was saying that like the offensive line position doesn't look too good for next year's free
Yeah,
agent
it's
class.
it's a kind of shitty offensive line, interior offensive line class. I know that Green Bay is gonna have to at least find one more tackle, and maybe two, depending on what happens with any of Zach Tom and Rasheed Walker. But yeah, the interior O line options aren't that great on the market this year, so we'll see. Yeah, it's I think you're right in the sense that I don't want to say they don't care. Obviously, it does matter whatever the rest of the team and Love, the rest of the team around Love and Love himself do the rest of this season. But I think they were hoping to kind of catch lightning in a bottle if everything came up roses, and it's the
Oh
opposite.
yeah.
Everything's kind of
There's no doubt in my mind that they weren't like saying we're going to go into tank mode. They were kind it was kind of split like 70-30, that hey, we're just going to roll with the punches, but if we happen to make it so far, then that's just icing on the cake.
yeah. But I think the most entertaining thing about the whole Razul trade is he was listed on the practice injury report for Buffalo as just got here.
Just arrived or whatever. Yeah. um
but
yeah,
going to yeah, go for it, go for it.
good. No, I was just gonna reiterate, we hope the best for him, and hopefully, he can push it over. He was a true pro, and I always say that, for the most part, outside of maybe a handful of guys, once you wear that green and gold, you're a Packer for life, no matter what happens to you. So, he'll always be welcome back in Green Bay.
Yep,
Unless he goes nuts and like
yeah.
completely trashes everything, and yeah.
Seems like he's got a decent head on his shoulders, but I've said that before and been wrong. So, but going from Bills practice to the Packers practice, it was actually a pretty good turnout today. The Everyone participated in some regard, including Jair, Aaron Jones, and Yosh, who came in for Rasheed Walker after Walker was benched and then hurt his foot. I think Yosh said after the game that he fell funny after trying to block a field goal or a kick or something like that. So hopefully he's all right, but it was good to see that he was back out there for limited snaps.
But you know what's crazy is Rashid looked like he played better after Yosh went out.
Well,
I don't know grade wise or whatever, but it just seemed like he was playing a little bit better after he got the bench, and then Yosh had to go back out because of injury.
Maybe he's just one of those guys that needs to get kicked in the ass every once in a while. So,
and you might
it's
know
all
a little
about
bit
self-discovery this season. So,
yeah, and you might know a little bit better than me because I think this was in my down year where I didn't. He was 2020, right? Or was he 2019?
No,
Or 21?
21. He was a 21 year. Yeah.
Okay. I think that was my
No, he was a 22 draft pick. 22
Okay.
draft pick. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was just before I started getting back into the draft stuff. But I think I remember something about that. That was one of the reasons he fell so far, was because there was that issue that he just kind of got complacent, and you would have to kick him in the ass once in a while to get him motivated. So maybe that did it. Because, there was a 3-game span where he looked, solid, and then he just kind of fell off.
Yep. So, I mean, that's what happens with young guys is that, they come out, they make their first impression, and then, like I said, the league always punches back, and it's whether you can figure it out and punch back yourself, or if you're just gonna get knocked the hell out. And so that's on the table for a lot of the guys. Like obviously Watson's dealing with an injury and stuff. I know he's not on the report, but I don't feel like he's 100% healthy yet. Same for Love. All the young receivers, they're all gonna go through that. So that's all part of, like you said, it's it's a long season for the rookies, and they're going to take their lumps, and that's the ride that Gutekunst and LaFleur, and everyone's coming out of the woodworks with all their theories and stuff like that. But in some degree, everyone signed off on that. But enough on the Packers side of things. We're here to preview the Rams, and
they're in just as bad a shape as the Packers are.
yeah, and it's just how polished is the piece of shit at this point. So I mean, what's it called? So Stafford, the big news for the Rams is that Stafford hurt his thumb. I think it's another UCL injury. UCL, whatever it's the
it's in the
thumb
thumb.
bone connects to the hand bone.
Yeah, something like that.
It's something that he's definitely played through before. If you go and look, I don't even remember which year, but he had those years where he had the big splint and he would totally tape up his thumb all the way to the back of his wrist, kind of thing and stuff. So they
and
haven't.
he'd have to have like a special. I remember those years with Favre where he'd have to have like a special splint made that
The ice cream scoop,
the
ice cream, not scoop, but the wooden spoons. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't just that, but I remember specifically one year with the thumb where they said they would have to take like rubber or plastic and melt it directly onto it, just
Yeah,
so
that
it
was
would
03.
form.
Yeah.
Where it form fit onto the thumb to brace it a little bit better.
Yep. So, I'm assuming he'll go all the way up to to the inactives before game time.
Maybe, but
Hell,
didn't they sign a quarterback off somebody's practice squad too?
no, they tried to, but he told them, nah, bro. Well, maybe they signed a different one, but they tried to bring that guy Wolford back.
Yeah.
But he
But
said,
then
nah, I'll just stick
there was
on
somebody
Tampa
with
Bay's.
there was one with a weird name.
Hold on, let me go. I'd missed that if they did sign one. Uncle Eric, what did your team do? Oh no, that's Brett Rippon. Oh, Dresser Win.
Yeah, there you go.
And he's white, so that makes his name even funnier.
What's wrong with white people, Mike?
Oh,
I got you quiet on that one.
Just the spelling and everything. It doesn't make you think white guy.
Yeah, I said it was a weird name, but I did see that they signed him, so that not necessarily meaning that Stafford is out. Sorry,
you got to have contingencies for your contingencies at this point, though. So that's all it is. Like I said,
it points to maybe not as much.
But whether Stafford plays or not, the now reshuffled Packers secondary is going to have its hands full. Even if Jaw plays, I'm still not confident that Jaw's anywhere near healthy enough to where he should be playing. But and it sounds like
he needs to go get that acupuncture.
Yeah, and it sounds like Valentine is going to start at the other cornerback position, but they're going to have their hands full. Cooper Kupp is, he's fully healthy now and looks like the guy he's always been. And Puka Nacua has had a stellar start to the season, but he was a limited participation in practice today with a knee, so that'll be something. I think they said he's probably going to play, but if he's at all limited, that'll only give Green Bay's mushed up secondary all the help it needs. But we'll keep an eye on that. And the big thing to remember with the Rams.
I am not surprised with the way Puka is going right now. Because I was really high on him before the draft. I had 3 guys in the wide receiver class that I could consider my guys. And 2 of them I know people can name, just go with it. Obviously, the first one was Jonathan Mingo, who's kind of struggled down in Carolina, partly because of injury, partly because Carolina is just shit. The other one was Marvin Mims, who's with Denver, and kind of the same thing there. Denver's just kind of a shit team. And my third guy was Puka Nacua. And I loved the way he played the game. Every time I'd turn on some kind of video of him, he was always making some kind of spectacular catch. I had concern that maybe somebody would try to make him a tight end more than a wide receiver, just because I didn't think the speed was there. But that boy could catch almost anything that was thrown to him, and so it doesn't surprise me that he's kind of turned into Stafford's favorite little toy over with the Rams.
Well, and he went to the right team. That's the thing, is that he
Yeah.
can do some of the stuff that they use, especially when Cup was out to start the year. They were like, okay, like this guy is obviously he's not Cooper, but he's a similar, build and style of receiver. So it's kind of like, all right, just let him do the Cooper stuff. And I mean, yeah, the results speak for themselves. He'll be one. It'll be obviously we're playing him now, but he'll be one. It'll be interesting to see if he hits the wall in a couple of weeks or in a few weeks when you would ideally, not ideally, but when you basically would be at the end of the college season. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. But yeah, it's gonna be a challenge. The good thing is that he's not a super tall or super like long receiver. So that the type that, even if he was healthy would give Ja a lot of trouble. So but the thing to remember is, so I couldn't name the Rams running backs without having to look them up at this point.
I know one's Daryl Henderson.
I know they brought him back, right? the drug that McVay can't quit. But that McVay's whole thing is that he's gonna call play action from any formation, any whether it's shotgun under center, he doesn't care. He loves to run play action, and he'll do it any down. And that was always the joke with when Goff was the quarterback, is that they're like, he's running play action on 3rd and 12. But McVay's like, like you never know, maybe we'll hand it off one time. And that's always how he's gotten a lot of his best effectiveness out of whether his quarterback was Goff or Stafford. But that's something that it'll be interesting to see how Green Bay matches up with it. But yeah,
okay, they don't have some bad running backs over there. They're not like anything that scares me, but they're not bad. You got Royce Freeman, who was pretty solid with Denver for a bit. Myles Gaskin, I was kind of high on him when he came out of the draft, but I think he's bounced around a lot. Daryl Henderson, and Zach Evans.
Yep. So, I mean, I don't even care who the other team's running backs are. They're going to get $150 on us. So,
well, this would be the week to just go all out and start bringing some guys up, like Jonathan Ford or, do they still have Chris Slayton on the?
He's still on the practice. Ford is still on the practice squad. Yeah. So,
bring one of those guys up, really reinforce that defensive line, because really, obviously if Stafford plays, he's going to be hurt. But if you have like Ripon or the other guy that they signed playing Win. I was remembering Dresser, but I couldn't remember what his last name was. The key is going to be pressure. Well, you're going to want to run as many guys on your front seven as you can to get pressure. Because I don't care how shitty your defensive backs are. If the quarterback can't get time to throw the ball, he's not going to do it. He's not going to be able to put up anything. So this is when right now, I would say Joe Barry's going to be pretty much coaching for his job. I know they've kind of hamstrung him with losing Rasul, but I really believe that these last 10, 11 games is going to be for his job. I don't think LaFleur's quite on that hot seat. I know the big talk is maybe Gutekunst, but I don't see Gutekunst being on the hot seat right now.
No.
But I think there are a lot of coaches on the team that are going to be playing for their job, coaching for their job.
Yeah. I intimated it early on the week on Twitter. I don't think, they just, both of them just signed extensions, and I know that doesn't mean everything, but I would have a hard time to see that, all parties involved in the triumvirate of decision making between Murphy, Gutekunst, and LaFleur didn't understand what they were dealing with in terms of, it was for all intents and purposes, it was a house of cards, and the cards all fell down this year. So, but I do wonder, the tinfoil hat thought I do have is, and we can definitely go into this later, but um, do they say, okay, this is like McCarthy's 2018, where it's like you got to just clean house on your staff and reset the deck kind of thing and stuff? But that's like I said, that's a discussion for
Yeah, that's
another day.
discussed another day. But I just think that, you know, like we kind of both said with the Raiders game and the Broncos game, this is a game that on paper the Packers should win.
They're favorites still right now at this moment. So
Right.
yeah. And yeah,
The
so
but we know how that goes because we watched the Raiders game and we watched the
yeah.
Broncos game. So, but by all accounts, they should win the game, especially if Stafford isn't playing. There should be
Yep.
no reason that Brett Ripon or Dresser Win should be able to lead that fucking team against the Packers, especially with the kind of pass rush the Packers have. You know, Gary will eat them alive. Uh, Preston will be decent. Maybe this will be Lucas Van Ness's breakout game. I mean, he's been pretty solid so far this year, but I mean, this could be his, you know, coming out party where it just he has 2 sacks and,
Oh, I
you
missed the
know, a
big one.
couple.
I missed the big one for the Rams offense. Rob Havenstein, their right tackle, missed today's practice with a calf injury. So I didn't see how they're expecting him to progress, but that would be a big one if he misses the game.
Well, and yeah, because they're like the Packers right now, where their offensive line really isn't, you know, that great. So, uh, but yeah, this is one of those games that they should win, but who knows what'll
Yeah.
happen. But I do not see them making any in-season decisions on coaching. But this will be one of those that when they go through the checklist at the end of the year, that all right, well, what'd you do with this game?
Yep.
You didn't do well. All right, that's a red mark. You're, you know, and so many red marks add up, you're gone. You know, and I hate to say that because, you know, some of the coaches are good coaches. You know, Stinovich, good coach. He's not a good offensive coordinator at the moment, but he's, you know, he's a good coach. Butkus, you know, so far he's not been able to handle the pressures of being the offensive line coach, but he's a good assistant coach, you know.
Yep.
And I really do think that this could be Barry's last year because what is it? Murphy's done in 2 years.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's because it's the day he turns whatever, whatever age. So I'm not sure when that falls, if that's before or after the season, but it's 2020, some point in 2025.
Yeah. So here's my theory, and I know I've went off on tangents so far this episode, but here's my theory of it. Murphy, unless something major happens, isn't going to make a move because he's going to be a lame duck president, CEO, whatever you want to call it. But we all know what happens when a new person takes over.
Yep.
They usually don't like keeping, you know, past regimes staff. They want to start completely over with their staff. Now, unless this is going to be like a Mark Murphy underling or, you know, I think what it is they take a vote amongst the board and or whoever's got the longest tenure or whatever. I can't remember. I think
Yeah.
it's voted on or something like that. But anyway, so this year, I think what'll happen is LaFleur is going to be making decisions for his future job because next year his job is going to be on the hot seat. The same with Gutekunst. Because after that, when Murphy's done, there's going to be giant
Yep.
question marks. And it's going to be if you didn't do this, then, you know, we're going to find
Yeah.
somebody else.
And so yeah, so this is where it gets a little weird. So yeah, it's the day they turn 70. That's when the
Yeah.
Packers CEO is auto retired out, set adrift, to so to speak. But so what's weird for what makes it a little funky is so Murphy's birthday is July, so I knew it would carry him through the draft, but that's where it gets kind of like, okay, does that mean Gutekunst and LaFleur have the 25 season, or if this thing goes tits up again next year, are they both gone? Kind of, because I don't know. It gets into that weird, like, okay, like, sure, Murphy can fire both of them right after the 24 season, but would the board allow him to hire a new, either GM
I
or
don't
coach?
think
So yeah,
unless something major happens, like they go 0-17 next year,
right,
I
yeah,
I don't see Murphy making the decision on that.
right, exactly, yeah. It would have to be
Um,
catastrophic kind of thing. So
right.
yeah,
But like I said, I think what'll happen, and I kind of was convoluted when I said it, but this year LaFleur is going to have to make a decision on his coaches. I think there's going to be a little bit of a house cleaning. I don't think it's going to be like a complete
right,
wipeout start over, but I think there's going to be some guys let go, some guys change over, whatever happens. Then the next year, which would lead us into the 25 season, Gutekunst is going to be making decisions because at that point he's got to be doing something to save his job.
yeah,
So, okay, Matt, what did you do for us? Yeah,
right,
you had a great first few years, but then we had this plan and you suffered, this plan sucked.
right,
So then after that is when you get the new CEO, president, whatever, and then that's when the big decisions are going to be made.
yeah. So
That's just my theory.
but as we've gone so off tangent, we've blown our mind, just like Aaron Donald has
It
blown his
happened.
mind in the last couple times he's played the Packers. Unfortunately, I don't think that's if he loses his mind, it's going to be because he's just kicking everyone's ass in front of him, not like because neither guy who's driven him insane when they've last played him is playing at that level. Elton, I think, is dealing with. I mean, he's one of the guys that's still on the injury report, and Runyon is not playing at the high level he was in the 21 season. So, um, yeah, Donald might have a field day against this interior O line, especially against the run. And the only bit of good news is that one of their leading the Rams inside linebackers, Ernest Jones, is a question mark because of I think knee knee injury. He was also a DNP, so that could be a big one. But yeah, I'm having shivers thinking of what Aaron Donald is going to do to this
Yeah, but didn't
Packers
you know
offensive
Josh
line.
Myers is playing the best football of his career?
Yeah, they've dug a hole on that one. Um, I mean, can't just go and throw him out into the bus already at this point. So they've got to just get whatever they can out of it
Yeah,
and
but
stuff.
I kind of like Todd said on Lombardi's bar, he went out of his way to bring up Josh Myers and how well he's playing. You could have just said, "Hey, they're doing, what they can on the team or for the team and they're having their moments." But no, he went out of his way to say, Josh Myers is playing the best football of his career.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have many answers for that one. None that are going to make anyone happy. So I'm not even going to bother.
Well, and I know like guys like Dusty and all them are showing that yeah, he's holding up pretty well in pass block, but he's not in run block, but he's still not, and to my eye, without breaking down like the all 22 or anything, he still struggles a bit in the pass block. I, I mean,
No,
he's had good
yeah,
plays.
he's not Lindsley, and that's the problem. Is that he's he was drafted to hypothetically be a as much as a plug and play guy to fill the shoes of Corey Lindsley, and he has not measured up to that. Whether Creed, and that's the thing is like it's not to me. That's the part that I look at. The Creed Humphrey part of it, yeah, whatever. There's a lot of things that have come out as to why they picked Myers over Humphrey. I have my own, half joke, half serious thing about Humphrey snapping the ball with his left hand. But you know, I look at it more as, they were hoping that he would be, not necessarily, the same level as Myers was, but wouldn't be a severe drop off, and that just hasn't been the case. So it just magnifies it. It doesn't matter which side of it you look at it, but yeah, he just hasn't measured up either to the shoes Lindsley left him or what Creed has done for the Chiefs, and it's just exacerbated the issues on the interior of the offensive line. So yeah, that's where it
But
stands with that.
with Aaron Donald, who knows? I mean, yeah, Elton's kind of dinged up a bit, but I it's always one of those that when you've had an issue with a player in the past, that no matter how bad you feel, you always wanna play, uh, up to that because you wanna shove it down his throat.
That's
I
true.
I I'm sure there were guys when you were playing that you wanted to just run it down their throat no matter how you felt about it. There were times that I felt the same way in the sports that I played. So, you know, I could see him coming out and looking like his old self again just because it is Aaron Donald, and then the next game he comes back down to earth and, maybe struggles a little bit because he put a little too much effort into it, but, yeah, Donald is gonna, give the Packers a hard time, but, uh, that's where LaFleur has to work around it. Okay, well, we're not going to be able to do this, so let's work on this. We're not going to be able to run up the gut, so let's work on some outside runs. Let's work on our quick screens. Let's, play
We're gonna run
action
that
a little bit
stupid
more.
McCarthy play 20 times again.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm stealing my resolve for that already. But yeah, it's I know I hate that it's kind of the same as what it's been the last. But that's the problem with where the Packers are is that we talked about it all offseason is that you wanted to see an upward trend with this team, and unfortunately it's been the opposite. It's been a downward trend the whole season, and until they show signs of really popping out of that. And I joked about it with Jake Shavink on Twitter. I said, you know, I'd even consider them doing like just the total opposite of what they do, where they don't do shit on offense for a whole half, and then they play. It looks good because they're catching up in the second half. If they just did that, the opposite, where they scored like 20 something points in the first half and didn't do anything, at least something was different. And it paints a different picture if you're trying to hold on to a lead as opposed to like you just didn't show up for the first half kind of thing. But I know I feel like we just repeated the same. We've just put the same. We're just putting extra coats of paint on the same wall at this point. But until they
Like
break that
Yogi
wall
Berra
down.
would say, it's like deja vu all over again.
But I don't have many more words to say on this one. Joe, do you have
There's
anything
nothing.
really left to say?
No, because again, like we were talking about with the Razul trade, from the fan side of it, it's been disappointing, and I don't look to it get much better. I hope it does, but from a fan point of view, it's not looking great. But from a analytical type look at it, I think we're progressed where we probably should be with the type of team that we have. So it can only go up from here. I don't think
Right.
it can go any worse.
Yeah. Just stop making so many mental errors. Like the fact that, like the first pass play of the game is one where Jordan goes to throw an RPO and no one's running a route kind of thing, or like the first time they failed in the red zone, and we were kind of like, oh, did he lock in on Dobbs, or like you said, did was he throwing it to Reed, but Reed stopped running kind of thing and stuff. So it's those where no one really, we're basing assumptions off of what similar route concepts we know that look like kind of what they're running, but then it's like, okay, dude, they just JT O'Sullivan kind of like snarkily says it during his film reviews, like, I've never seen it coached that way, but that's how they're doing it, kind of thing and stuff. So,
This
yeah,
is where I kind of miss Luke Getzey, and I know he's not really doing well down in Chicago, but I'm pretty sure when he was wide receivers coach, there was a drill that they did, and it really helped Devontae a lot because as everybody knows, Devontae really struggled the first couple of years. And what they would do, and it looked like it hurt like a son of a bitch, but they would still do it, is they would take it was basically a pitching machine, like the baseball pitching machine, but it was, you know, you might know what they call it more than I do, but it's You put the football in, it shoots the football out.
Jugs machine. Yeah.
Jugs machine, there you go. I couldn't think of that for whatever reason. But they would basically have the receivers stand as close as you could to the jugs machine with your hands in diamond formation like you're supposed to receive the ball, and they would just fire that damn ball at them. And it was strengthened hands and it would, whatever. Now, obviously, I don't think they had the jugs machine set at like 100 mile an hour or whatever, but they still had it set at probably what Aaron threw his fastest at. And look at Devontae. Now we're calling him one of the greatest wide receivers in this era. So maybe that's something that, and I don't know, they could be doing that, but that's definitely something they need to work on.
Yeah. Just a lot of things that they need to work on at this point. But that's all I've got for this game. Not much more to be said. What you got for so yes, no's, I threw a fun one in there. Like you said, we don't one of the reasons we don't expect anything to go different is because we don't expect substantial changes to be made. But I threw one in there. Will they shuffle the O-line this week?
I think they will at least start Yosh or Yosh as long as he's healthy. I think they'll at least start Yosh. Now, whether or not they will change anything else up, I have no fucking clue. I wish
Right.
they would. I keep going back to they need to put Yosh at left, Elton at left guard, Tom at center, Runyon at right guard, and Rashid or Caleb Jones or whoever they want to run at right tackle. And at least Jordan's blind side is protected.
Yep.
So, and it might even open up the running lanes a little bit more. But I think to answer your yes no fully, I'm going to say no. But to do it partially, I think at least Yash will start over Rashid.
Yeah, that, like you said, it's pending Yosh's status, but I kind of get the feeling that it'll probably be Yosh to start. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be any other shuffles other than that. What else you got for us this week, though?
Well, I threw this one out there, just to because it's been a couple weeks, so I really do think they might use a activation on him, considering they haven't used any of their practice squad call ups for the last 2 weeks. But does James Robinson play?
I think no. Uh, I know the returns on and the comments on Aaron Jones haven't been promising. That they're saying, oh yeah, he's still. They're concerned because they're like he could have another setback and stuff. But I'm
Well,
just
I
gonna
know
say
he
no
was
until it
wearing,
happens.
what was it, today or yesterday? He was wearing the red no contact jersey.
Yeah, that was today's
So
practice. Yeah.
I'm going to say yes, because I think with it being a couple weeks in, he's had a chance to get, into the playbook.
Acclimated. Yeah.
Um, and it at least call it, just in case something happens to re-aggravate Aaron Jones's injury, because obviously they're not trusting Emmanuel Wilson for some reason. Uh, while AJ Dillon looked better last week, I'm still not completely sold on him being the prime back for the Packers if something happens to Aaron Jones. So I'm hoping more than any more than in the know, I'm hoping it happens that James Robinson will play. And then this one is an obvious one. Do the Packers score at first half touchdown this week? Because
Hell
it's
no.
good. Again, this is
I
going
don't
to
even
be one.
know if I'm joking or being serious, but
I don't either. I really
yeah.
couldn't tell you one way or the other. I mean, I'm going to say yes, because the streaks always have to be broken at some point. So maybe they'll move it from only scoring in the first half and not scoring in the second half type thing. But Yeah, I'm gonna go with it. So over under wise, I've got 9.5 carries for Aaron Jones.
No, I don't think so. The stuff we're hearing out of practice is not promising, so I don't think so.
I don't know. I really don't. I don't even think if he was healthy, he would still reach 9.5. But I'm gonna say over just for the hell of it. I have a feeling that if Robinson doesn't play, that means they're expecting Aaron to play more. So I think something's going to happen where they're just going to say, "All right, just go out there, just go." 1.5 touchdowns for Jordan Love.
I'll go over.
I'm gonna go under then, just to be an opposite. And then I threw this one on there because, like I stated earlier, even if Stafford plays, he's only going to be at 50%. Brett Ripon will play, then, I wouldn't expect a ton out of him. And if that Dresser win plays, I definitely don't expect a ton out of it. So over under 2.5 sacks for the Packers D.
Over. I think Stafford has a tendency to hold the ball. That's kind of why he would have struggles against Green Bay, is he would kind of stare plays down and take bad sacks and stuff like that. So even if you play, and then if either of the backups are in, I think that only becomes more likely. So I'll say over.
I'm going to be hopeful and say over also. I think it'll be like right at 3.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm hoping that this could be the type of game that Lucas Van Ness could really go off on, or maybe they activate Britton Cox, or not activate him for the practice squad, but let him be a suited guy on during the game, and one of them will just tear it up.
Yep. So I think they'll have their chances this week. I really do. Well, like I said, until things change, until the team on the field changes our expectations, these are kind of just dour and just wondering which of the 1,000 ways we're gonna die in the upcoming game. But Joe, you got anything else before this one? We head on out from this one.
No, and I know you'll touch on it a little bit in the outro, but just, go over and check out ohanapackers.org. As a lot of people might have seen already on Twitter, we've got Joey from Underage Packers. Uh, he's he's got one article up. I don't think it's going to be like a constant thing. I think it's just going to be an occasional article out of him. Mike is doing great things over there so far. I think I kind of gave him an idea for another article earlier today. So, and occasionally I'll jump on there and throw something up. So just please go over, check it out. Obviously take a listen to this, but if nothing else, just check out the articles. Give them a read. Let these guys know how they're doing on them, and we appreciate all that stuff.
Yep, absolutely. So please, like Joe said, please support the website. We're trying to, the more you guys check it out, the more writers we're going to be able to bring in, and we're just trying to put out as much good content as we can. But yep, that's going to be a wrap. We will catch you guys after on Sunday after the game concludes. This has been the Ohana Packers edition game preview for the Rams. We thank you for following us along. Please give us a follow on Twitter. I'm at Kawano Mike. Joe is at Iowa_Joe86. Follow the podcast at Ohana_Packers. Website is ohanapackers.org, like Joe says. Yep, please do check out Joey Van Zumeren. He did his farewell ode to Rasul Douglas as his initial post for us, and like Joe said, Joey will have more posts to come in the future. Joey, I'm gonna screw that up.
Yeah, it's gonna be all kinds of nuts. I even have that too, but yeah, it's going to be crazy. But he's an up and coming writer. He's going to school at the University of Missouri right now for journalism. So we're just kind of helping him get an outlet to perfect his craft. So and he's helping us build the brand. So
absolutely. But bringing it from Joey back to these two guys, just follow us on whatever podcast listening app you like to use. Give us a subscribe, give us a like if you're enjoying what you're hearing, and whether you're enjoying or have criticisms, please leave us comments. We like any feedback we can get. And that's gonna wrap it for this opponent preview edition of the podcast. We say mahalo and aloha.